It started at exactly 3:47 a.m. I know because I was in the middle of the kind of deep REM sleep that only hits after a day of hauling mulch and arguing with a 10-year-old about why chocolate milk is not a suitable dinner. Then ding dong. The doorbell rang like it was summoning me to Judgment Day. I stumbled out of bed, tripping over my cat and cursing under my breath. I opened the door in pajama pants, a Star Wars t-shirt, and a glorious bedhead. And there she was. HOA Karen. In all her robed glory, holding a clipboard like it was a sword of righteousness. "Can you move your Jeep?" she asked, I squinting like I was some rogue raccoon. I blinked. At 4 in the morning? My guests need a place to park. They're coming from out of town. Okay, but this is my driveway. Karen sniffed. As an HOA board member, I'm entitled to make special arrangements in the interest of community hospitality, including assigning my driveway to people I've never met. She crossed her arms like she just got promoted to parking lot general. It's a simple request. If you're a good neighbor, you'll move it. Besides, you don't even use your Jeep during the week. I use it when I want to not be woken up by lunatics at 4 a.m., I replied. Big mistake. Her face scrunched. Her voice turned icy. You leave me no choice. Great. Go back to bed. But Karen didn't go back to bed. Oh no. 10 minutes later, I saw flashing blue lights outside my window. She called the cops. Over a Jeep. In my own driveway. I opened the door again, greeted by two groggy officers who looked like they'd rather be chasing raccoons than dealing with this HOA nonsense. Sir, we got a call about a disturbance involving a vehicle blocking a driveway, the older one said. I pointed behind me. That's my Jeep. That's my driveway. The disturbance is standing right over there wearing a bathrobe and a superiority complex. Karen stormed up like she was about to deliver a TED Talk on neighborhood decency. Officers, he's being unreasonable. My guests are arriving in 20 minutes. I couldn't help it. I laughed. What is this? Airbnb meets North Korea? The younger officer glanced at Karen. Ma'am, unless this gentleman is blocking your driveway, there's no crime here. Karen gasped like someone had slapped her with a zoning permit. The officers turned back to me. Sorry to bother you, sir, try to get some rest. As they left, Karen hissed, this isn't over. And something told me it definitely wasn't. By 7 a.m., I'd finally dozed off again only to wake up at 9:12 to the sound of a car horn honking repeatedly in my driveway. Correction, my Jeep's driveway. I threw on some clothes, stumbled outside, and was greeted by the sight of a silver Lexus parked directly behind my Jeep, boxing it in, like I was a car in timeout. Standing proudly next to it? Karen. Arms crossed. Sunglasses on. Holding a disposable coffee cup like it was a trophy. I stood there, blinking at the audacity. You blocked me in? She sipped her coffee. You blocked my guests out. I figured this was fair. I just stared. This is not how parking works. Oh, I'm just getting started, she said cheerfully, and pulled out her phone. I knew I should have stayed in bed. Turns out, Karen had created an entire group chat with a few of her fellow HOA minions called Neighborhood Decency Patrol. Apparently, they were going to start a community movement against antisocial behavior, and I was Exhibit A. She took a photo of me next to my own Jeep like I was some villain in a true crime docuseries. Don't worry, I'll blur your face. Maybe. I laughed. I'm sure the internet will cry over my refusal to give up my driveway for Karen's Great Gatsby breakfast bash. That seemed to hit a nerve. I'll have you know, my guests are business professionals. One of them is a dentist. Oh no, I deadpanned. Not dental royalty. Karen's smugness evaporated. I'm filing a complaint with the HOA. And I'll make sure we review your property compliance. Your mailbox pane is chipped, and there's a dandelion in your front yard. I looked over at the single dandelion. It looked like it was trying to mind its own business. You're threatening me over a weed? It's a violation, she snapped, turning on her heel and marching back to her castle of pettiness. I went back inside and immediately called my cousin, Rico, a mechanic with a talent for revenge and a taste for chaos. You want the Jeep moved while it's blocked in? He asked, laughing. I got you. By 10:30 a.m., Rico pulled up in his battered tow truck, revved the engine, and with surgical precision, lifted the Jeep straight out of the driveway like it was a Barbie car. Karen ran out in a panic, waving her arms like a wacky inflatable tube man. What are you doing? Moving my cousin's vehicle, Rico said, grinning. Don't worry, Karen. I won't charge you for the parking space you've been squatting in. She screamed something about unauthorized mechanical activity, whatever that means, and stormed back into her house, slamming the door so hard a garden gnome tipped over. I parked the Jeep down the block and waited. By sunset, an official HOA violation notice had been taped to my front door. Apparently, I was guilty of excessive vehicle elevation, obstructing community parking harmony, and general rudeness. But the real kicker? They scheduled a mandatory disciplinary hearing for me. At 4 a.m. They really had the nerve. I smiled. Game on, Karen. I spent the next 24 hours plotting like I was in a heist movie. First things first, I RSVP'd, gladly attending to Karen's ridiculous 4 a.m. HOA hearing. Then, I got to work. By midnight, my cousin Rico was back, this time not with his tow truck, but with his portable LED construction lights, the kind that could make midnight feel like a tanning booth. We set them up around my driveway like we were about to film a car commercial. I pulled my Jeep into the spotlight like it was being interviewed on national television. And I wasn't done. Next, I wheeled out a portable speaker setup I usually reserve for tailgate parties. Hooked it up to a motion sensor. Programmed it to blast DMX barking noises anytime someone came within 10 feet of my driveway. By 3:30 a.m., everything was in place. At 4:01 a.m. sharp, I walked over to the HOA clubhouse, aka Karen's front porch, since she insisted on hosting the hearing at her house to maintain intimate community energy. I knocked. The door creaked open and revealed 5 other HOA members, all sitting in a semicircle like they were about to perform a seance. Karen stood in the center, holding a clipboard and looking like she'd just sniffed expired yogurt. Mr. Ramirez, she said, welcome to your disciplinary hearing. Is there going to be breakfast or just threats? No one laughed. Karen cleared her throat. Let's begin. As per Section 8, Paragraph 3B of the HOA Guidelines, you've disrupted community harmony, refused reasonable requests from board members, and displayed antagonistic behavior. I raised my hand. Yes, she asked. Is this the part where I apologize for owning a vehicle and not being a doormat? Another silence. One of the HOA dudes shifted in his chair like he'd rather be anywhere else. Karen powered through. We are recommending a fine of $300 and revocation of your guest parking privileges for 60 days. Wow. So no imaginary guests and imaginary spots for 2 months? Harsh. You can appeal, she said sweetly, but only during designated HOA office hours, which are every third Wednesday from 2 to 2:30 p.m. I'll see if I can skip my weekly appointment with my psychic, I replied. As I left, I noticed something glorious. A fire truck was now parked outside. Apparently, one of Karen's neighbors reported blinding light and barking sounds coming from my house, worried it was an emergency or a rave. I ran over to explain, laughing so hard I could barely breathe. The fire captain glanced over at the setup, nodded in appreciation, and said, "This is for HOA nonsense, huh?" "Yup." He smirked. "Carry on." As the truck pulled away, I spotted Karen in her window, eyes wide like a raccoon caught in a spotlight. She knew I wasn't backing down. But here's the thing, Karen was about to step it up. Because the very next morning, I found an envelope on my porch labeled, "Final Warning." And inside, a letter stating that the HOA would be filing for legal action if I didn't attend a conflict resolution workshop hosted in Karen's backyard. Mandatory attendance. And of course, the workshop was set for 4 a.m. Again, I chuckled. She wanted a war. She was about to get a fireworks show. The morning of Karen's so-called conflict resolution workshop, I rolled up at 3:58 a.m. with my Jeep, 2 lawn chairs, 3 donuts, and my friend Emily who, fun fact, just so happens to be a licensed mediator. Oh yeah, and did I mention she's also a YouTuber with 1.2 million followers? Because I didn't. To Karen. Emily showed up with a GoPro strapped to her head and a neon pink clipboard labeled, "Let's Get Petty." We set up the lawn chairs in Karen's backyard like it was a podcast taping. There was already a sad folding table with lemon water, a circle of white plastic chairs, and a laminated banner that read, "Harmony starts here." 5 bleary-eyed HOA members sat shivering in their pajamas. Karen? Karen strutted out in a power suit like she was hosting the Oscars, holding her HOA clipboard with the same intensity most people reserve for defusing bombs. "Welcome," she said. "Before we begin, I want to thank everyone for being brave enough to come together in pursuit of peace." I clapped. Slowly. Loudly. Karen frowned. "Mr. Ramirez, please refrain from sarcasm." "I'm sorry," I said. "It's my love language." She cleared her throat, ready to launch into her grand monologue, but Emily beat her to it. "Hi, everyone. I'll be moderating today's workshop," Emily said with a toothy grin. "Quick heads up, I'm filming this for educational purposes and conflict resolution content." Karen's face did something between a twitch and a reboot. "Wait, filming?" Emily smiled wider. "Don't worry, it's all legal. This is a public-facing HOA event. Plus, my subscribers love messy community drama." Karen stuttered. "This wasn't supposed to be publicized." Emily turned to me. "Why don't you start by describing your experience with this conflict?" I leaned into the imaginary mic. "Well, it began at 4 a.m. 2 nights ago when I refused to yield my legally owned driveway to Queen Karen's out-of-town minions. One of the HOA board members choked on his lemon water." Karen hissed. "That's not what happened." Emily raised a hand. "Let's use I statements, please." "I am being stalked by an HOA Karen with more power than sense." Emily nodded thoughtfully. "Thank you." "Karen, your turn." Karen stood, lips pressed so tight you could have sealed Tupperware with them. "I'm trying to uphold order and respect in this community. That Jeep is a monstrosity. His behavior is disruptive, theatrical, and, frankly, intimidating." "Intimidating how?" Emily asked. "He has lights and music and a tow truck friend. It's creating a hostile driveway aura." Emily scribbled something on her clipboard. "Probably hostile driveway aura equals new episode title." Then came the final twist. Emily reached into her bag and pulled out a copy of the HOA charter, the same one Karen had waved around like a holy scroll for weeks. "Just FYI," she said, flipping to page 12, "there's no clause giving HOA members the right to assign private driveways, especially not for personal guests. You're actually in violation of your own policy." Karen's jaw dropped. I leaned forward. "So, am I allowed to park in my driveway again? Or should I call the fire department just to be sure?" Karen stood up, face red, muttered something about lawyers, and stormed back inside. The rest of the HOA looked at each other like kids who just watched their mom lose at Monopoly. Emily high-fived me. I'd say that was a productive session. Later that day, the video, HOA Karen's Backyard Breakdown, was uploaded to YouTube. And within hours, It had over 300,000 views. Karen's name wasn't mentioned, but everyone in the neighborhood knew. And Karen? She was furious. Because the next night, she went full nuclear. She towed my Jeep. Or at least, she tried. It was around 2 a.m. when I heard the beep beep of a tow truck reversing. I peeked through my blinds. And there it was. Karen, in a robe and slippers, standing on her lawn with a walkie-talkie, directing a shady-looking tow truck driver like she was orchestrating a military strike. Only one problem. That wasn't my Jeep. Nope. I had moved my Jeep to my brother's garage across town earlier that day, just in case Karen got creative. In its place, I had parked my decoy Jeep, a Craigslist special I bought for $600, and had spray-painted property of HOA on the hood for good measure. Oh, and it didn't run. Had no engine. Just a shell. The tow guy hooked it up anyway, and with a lot of creaking and a suspicious amount of effort, hauled it off like it was treasure. I watched them disappear into the night, sipping hot cocoa like I was watching the season finale of my favorite show. By 9 a.m., my phone blew up. You set me up. That vehicle was abandoned. The HOA will sue you. Karen had sent me 17 texts in all caps, one of which was just the word fraud in 14 lines. I responded with a single selfie, me holding the original title of the decoy Jeep with a sticky note that said, "Smile, you just towed private property without authorization." Smiley face. An hour later, she was at my door. No clipboard, no robe, no chill. She screamed something about vehicular entrapment and misleading property placement. I calmly asked her if she had the legal right to tow anything from my driveway. She went silent. That's when Emily walked up with her phone recording again and handed Karen a folder. Inside was a cease and desist letter drafted by Emily's lawyer boyfriend. A copy of our local county ordinance stating that towing from private property without consent was punishable by a hefty fine. And most deliciously, a printed out email from the HOA treasurer, resigning, citing hostile work environment and internal misconduct by the president. Karen paled. Checkmate, I whispered. The neighborhood was buzzing. A few residents had seen the YouTube video, and more were sharing it now that word of Karen's meltdown had gone viral. By the end of the week, a petition circulated to remove Karen from the HOA board. The tow truck company was under investigation for illegal towing. And Karen? Well, she put her house up for sale. I walked by during her open house and waved. Need extra driveway space for guests? She slammed the door. A few weeks later, a new family moved in. Super chill people. They loved the Jeep. We even had a barbecue in my driveway to celebrate. Everyone was invited. Even Karen. But she never showed. Probably too busy reading the thousands of comments calling her the driveway dictator on Emily's video. Justice was served. With a side of headlights and DMX barking.